Hello, and welcome to OncoLife interview session. It's my pleasure to introduce our guest, Dr. Raza Bokhari, CEO of the Medicus Pharma. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Hussein, for having me on your program.
Today, we will explore the breakthrough innovation in skin cancer treatment, SkinJect's. Dr. Reza, could we start with some information about your background, your professional journey, and maybe some information about the mission of the Medicus Pharma?
Sure, indeed. Thank you once again, Hussein, for having me on your program. So, I am a physician turned serial entrepreneur, and I have since relocating to United States some 30 plus years ago, have been focused in building healthcare life sciences companies, starting off in the diagnostic space and then moving into therapeutics, and have built companies from startup, and have built them and have sold them to strategic and financial buyers over the years. For last 7 or nearly 10 years, I have been focused on clinical stage therapeutic companies and using capital markets or public markets as a platform to advance novel therapies. And in that context, Medicus Pharma is a NASDAQ listed company that is focused on advancing novel therapeutic assets through their clinical development program and positioning them for an exit as they get closer to commercialization. And SkinJect is our lead asset, which is what we believe is targeted to, in many ways, disrupt the treatment regimen for non-melanoma skin diseases.
Skin cancer is the most common cancer worldwide, and the basal cell carcinoma makes up nearly 80% of the cases. What challenge in current treatment inspired you to develop such an innovation as a SkinJect?
So, thank you so much. Appreciate that question indeed. Non-melanoma skin diseases are the most prevalent and most common, not just in the United States, but around the world. And basal cell carcinoma of the skin is the most common cancer, with just nearly 5 million new cases that emerge just in the United States, and perhaps worldwide. This number is 30 or 50 million new cases. Luckily, basal cell carcinoma is a slow growing cancer, so it does get treated and does not mostly causes any deleterious or morbidity or mortality, especially in the Western Hemisphere. However, the standard of care, the gold standard of treatment for basal cell carcinoma is surgical intervention by a surgical procedure called Mohs surgery, which is indeed an effective but an expensive, painful, aesthetically not very pleasing treatment regimen. And also, it is limited by in the hands of trained surgeons, which usually are dermatologists. So, at a given time in the United States, there are about 870,000 or not more than 1 million Mohs procedures are conducted. And the incidence of basal cell carcinoma is nearly 5 million. So nearly at any given time, there are 7 million active patients that are suffering from basal cell carcinoma and waiting in the queue for a treatment possibility. So that creates not only an unmet need that requires to be fulfilled, but also produces an opportunity to bring to market a non-invasive treatment alternative. The quest for non-invasive treatment alternative has been ongoing for as long as I can remember, or for as many moons ago that I graduated from medical school. So the effort to bring to market a approved non-invasive treatment is nothing new. However, not a whole lot have succeeded, and we feel that we are very fortunate to not just become the first in class, but also the best in class to bring to market a non-invasive treatment option to treat non-melanoma skin diseases in general, but basal cell carcinoma in particular.
My surgery is the standard treatment for basal cell carcinoma, but it can be invasive. How does SkinJect compare in terms of the effectiveness, accessibility, and the patient experience?
So we are a novel treatment alternative. This is a patented delivery mechanism or innovative combination product that comes out of Carnegie Mellon and the University of Pittsburgh. And we are currently in advancing phase 2 clinical studies. So while in our experience in our studies, where we have completed a phase 1 study in 2021, which was a safety and tolerability study, but had also complete clinical response in 6 of the 13 patients that demonstrated that the cancer was cured through delivering doxorubicin, a known chemotherapeutic agent that was tip-loaded on our novel microneedle arrays. So we have evidence of 6 patients that have been cured, and we currently have a 60-patient phase 2 study that is underway in 9 sites across the United States. So it's a 60-patient study. It's a double-blinded, placebo-controlled, triple-arm study. And we have actually, as early as last week, have announced to the market that we will have a data read of our interim analysis before the end of this quarter. And we hope that it would be trending positively. So in answer to your question, our treatment is under development, going through trials. But if it is advances as we envision it is advancing, and it is approved as an alternative, it stands to, in some ways, disrupt the market and bring an additional opportunity besides Mohs surgery, which is painful, expensive, aesthetically not very pleasing, a relatively painless, cost-effective, and an aesthetically pleasing, novel, disruptive treatment. So in many ways, it is what we believe, that it will help advance better patient outcome. So it will fit in very well without many headwinds, since the basal cell carcinoma is in abundance, and all the Mohs surgery and the surgical procedures can't attend to all the prevailing patients that suffer from this illness.
SkinJect's microneedle technology delivers drug doxorubicin directly into the lesion while triggering the immune response. Can you explain how this dual mechanism contributes both tumor eradication and long-term recurrence prevention?
So the SkinJect patch is a cellulose-based microneedle array patch which has 400 micro array needles organized in a 13 millimeter by 13 millimeter active area. They are 750 microns in size, and they are tip loaded with micro doses of doxorubicin, which is a known chemotherapeutic agent, a compound that has been around for 30 plus years. Its safety and efficacy is very well understood and well documented. And our novel treatment is meant to apply the patch that transcends the dermis and delivers and touches the interstitial fluid at the site of the lesion. And these cellulose-based microneedles they dissolve and release the drug in the interstitial fluid. At the time of this release, it triggers an immunogenic response and activate what is called the reticulin pathway, and results in cell apoptosis or cell death, whether they are healthy cells or they are malignant cells, but all the cells that where at the site of the lesion where the drug has been delivered, there is cell death. So that is the mechanism of action. And as I have mentioned in our phase 1 study as a secondary endpoint, which was a safety study, and it demonstrated that drug doxorubicin can be delivered safely without any serious adverse effects at the site of the lesion, also showed that there was a complete clinical response in 6 of those 13 patients. And in our phase 2 study, we hope to replicate that with efficacy as a primary endpoint. And we hope that if we are able to demonstrate that, that will certainly create a true cure of this cancer. Now, with respect to recurrence, it's unknown. This is a novel treatment, has never been tried before. Even in Mohs surgery, which is a surgical procedure that is meant to curettage and scrape off these cancer cells in this very sophisticated surgical methodology, also perhaps in the hands of a lesser surgeon, has recurrence. In 20% of the time, the cancer comes back at the site of that is being treated. So we do not know what the recurrence rate would be, because it is too early to tell. But however, the good news is, whether it is Mohs surgery or it is our novel non-invasive treatment regimen, basal cell carcinoma is a slow-growing cancer. If it does recur, well, you can attack and treat it again. So it is the chances of morbidity or mortality from basal cell carcinoma is negligible. Actually, at least in the Western Hemisphere, if treated, no one dies of basal cell carcinoma.
Your phase 1 trial demonstrated a strong safety and efficacy profile with the complete response in several patients. What key endpoints are you evaluating in the ongoing phase 2 trial, and what make this study design particularly robust?
So appreciate the question, and it's a very relevant question. The phase 1 study was the primary endpoint was safety and tolerability. So we had a dose escalating study, and these 13 of these patients that had various doses that range from 25 microgram to 200 microgram demonstrated that all 13 patients, the doxorubicin was delivered safely at the site of the lesion without any serious adverse reaction. In addition, there was the secondary endpoint, which is clinical efficacy, and 6 of those 13 patients demonstrated that they also on histological examination when the patch was applied and there was an excisional biopsy that was done, and that is required in all patients that are undergoing this clinical trial, that there is an excisional biopsy of the treated lesion, demonstrated that 6 of them had a complete response. Also, those 6 patients were also the nodular type of basal cell carcinoma, which was very encouraging because basal cell carcinoma has 3 subtypes. The nodular type is nearly 70%, followed by about 25 plus percent, which is the superficial type, and there is less than 2 or 3%, which is the infiltrative type, which has at least spread to local lymph nodes. That is infiltrative type is almost negligible, at least in Western Hemisphere. But nodular type is the most common one and is also the prime candidate for Mohs surgery. And since our phase 1 study had all 6 patients with nodular type completely cured, our phase 2 study, which is a proof of concept study, is doubling down on nodular type of basal cell carcinoma. So all the 60 patients that are expected to be randomized in this study, in this placebo-controlled, double-blinded, 3-arm study, are nodular type of patients presenting with nodular type of basal cell carcinoma. And our hope is, and there are 3 arms to this study: a placebo arm, a 100 microgram low dose arm, and a 200 microgram arm. The objective of the phase 2 study is to demonstrate that efficacy in that we saw in 6 patients as a secondary endpoint, it can be replicated in the 60 patient trial. So that is the objective and the highlight of this phase 2 study. And if I may also add, this phase 2 study and this interim data analysis that is right around the corner is primarily being done so that we can use that data and populate that information for a Type C meeting that we are scheduled to have hopefully before the end of Q2 of this year, where we can get some further guidance and alignment from the FDA, because our belief is, and what we have been advised to us by our regulatory consultant, that this is a novel therapy. It qualifies to get on a fast track designation by the FDA, and our study should be expanded into a pivotal study after a Type C meeting with the FDA, with patient population should not exceed 400 patients and should also get earmarked as a fast track designation And the FDA should also agree with us that we should bring a new drug application as a 505(b)(2) pathway that is meant to bring to market another additional indication or additional use of doxorubicin. So we have some high hopes to build momentum for the remainder of this year to gallop forward and become at least the first in class, if not the best in class, non-invasive treatment regimen that could become, which we hope, as a standard of care to treat basal cell carcinoma. And we also hope that sometime before the end of 2027, we should have a commercially available product in the market.
You have submitted a Type C meeting request with the FDA. What specific regulatory consideration or expected pathway are you pursuing to accelerate SkinJect's approval?
So, as I had mentioned, and at the risk of being repetitive, the hope is that the FDA would give us some further alignment and guidance, that we get a fast track designation. The phase 2 proof of concept study, which is a 60-patient study, that the interim data that we plan to submit to the FDA is at the midway point. So some 25 or 26 patients that have completed in the study. It is the data that relies on the outcome of those patients that we will submit, that would qualify for us to convert this proof of concept study into a pivotal study, which should probably be no more than 400 patients. And also the FDA would give us, provide us clarity and agree with us that the pathway to registration should be a 505(b)(2) pathway, bringing to market a new indication for doxorubicin, which is basal cell carcinoma of the skin. So those are our primary objectives for this Type C meeting, which we hope we would have in place before the end of Q2 of this year.
How do you envision SkinJect fitting into mainstream dermatological and oncologic practice?
So I appreciate that question, and it's a very valuable question. We had commissioned LEK to do a commercial analysis report for us, and part of that report also includes some focus group from dermatologists in United States and Europe that have demonstrated a positive response with respect to adopting if our treatment regimen qualifies and becomes commercially available. And not only that, we feel that there are less headways to adoption by most surgeons and other dermatologists to adopt this treatment by virtue of the value proposition and the hope that the clinical efficacy data that we will demonstrate before the end of this quarter and as the study is ongoing, but also in the manner we have designed the delivery of our treatment. So in the United States, if basal cell carcinoma is diagnosed today, the earliest a most surgeon is available to surgically intervene is 6 to 8 weeks out. Usually it takes 4 to 6 months, but minimum it is 6 to 8 weeks out. Our treatment option is such that while the patient is diagnosed today and is scheduled for Mohs surgery, it can, in an office setting, sit and have a 30-minute application of our skin patch at the site of the lesion over 3 sittings spread over 2 weeks. So by the end of week 2, 3 patches are applied every time, 30 minutes for each time. And the patient is called back on week 5 or week 4 or 5 for a visual inspection. And if their visual inspection shows that the lesion has been cured and the skin is now clean and physiologically and pathologically looks normal, you don't have to advance forward for most surgery. But if for some reason the treatment option has failed, the patient is not in any way inconvenienced and can move on and get the surgical intervention. So we feel that our cost-effective, relatively painless, aesthetically pleasing treatment alternative fits in to the treatment continuum, the treatment pathway, without disrupting the patient outcome in an event that our patch does not work. So I think in the manner the treatment is designed and to the clinical efficacy that we hope that we would demonstrate in our clinical trials, we will have a positive adoption without much headwinds, and it addresses an unmet medical need.
With your phase 2 trial needing the interim analysis, what are the key milestones for Medicus Pharma hope to achieve in 2025, and what are the next steps if the data are positive?
So the skin patch has far more application and uses than basal cell carcinoma. There are additional indications in non-melanoma skin diseases, squamous cell carcinoma in situ. There is also an indication of actinic keratosis. So we are actively exploring to file some additional IND investigational new drug applications with the FDA to expand the clinical indications. There is a veterinarian indication in horses, where the squamous cell carcinoma in horses, which is quite common, is also very challenging. It requires surgical intervention. And sometime in the fall of last year, the FDA gave us an orphan drug designation, which is comparable, like a major use in a minor use in a major species for our technology. So we are also on the veterinarian side are in the process of putting together a clinical development plan with the FDA, and the hope that we can expand in that area. And lastly, we remain opportunistically keen to bring under our umbrella additional novel therapies. So our medical team, run by our chief medical officer, that works out of London, UK, is eating, sleeping, and drinking, trying to look for other novel assets that we can also bring under our umbrella. So it's a busy time for us, but we are laser sharp focused and on the basal cell carcinoma treatment option, because it by itself is it's a huge market size. It presents a very novel and disruptive opportunity for us. So we also are focused on expanding this study beyond the shores of the United States. So a lot more news catalyst are in the works, and we hope to come back on your program and share more details at another appropriate time.
Thank you very much. I have finished all my question. I don't know, do you want to add something else or underline any point in this interview?
Well, I am very appreciative, Hussein, for you to welcome us to your program and to your audience.
You're welcome, and thank you for sharing insights and your expertise.